Today we're going to talk about savings account and the type of interest you can earn on money that's deposited in a savings account. Interest is the money earned by depositing funds at a bank account. Why do banks pay people interest? They pay people interest because you're depositing or giving the bank your money to hold, and they turn around and loan it to other consumers at a higher interest rate. So the bank makes money by paying you one interest rate and then loaning it out at a higher interest rate to others. There's two ways to calculate interest on either a loan or on money invested in a bank. Simple interest and compounded interest. We will talk about compounded interest at a later time. Simple interest is interest that is earned only on the principal that is deposited into your savings account. The principal means the beginning balance, or the amount invested in your savings account, or the amount that is taken out as a loan. That's the definition of the principal. So simple interest is truly a simple calculation. It's the amount of principal times the interest rate times the length of time in an account. If you look at our example here, simple interest, I, here, equals the principal times the rate times the time. Interest equals principal times rate times time. Our example is that Elaine borrowed $2,000 for 3 years at an annual simple interest rate of 5%. How much interest will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the third year? So knowing that our formula is interest interest equals principal times rate times time, that would be $2,000 principal times a 5% interest rate times 3 years. 2,000 times 5% times 3 is $300. So she will have to pay back $300 in interest along with the $2,000 she originally borrowed for a total amount of $2,300. Today we're going to talk about compounding interest. Compounded interest calculation is an interest that is earned on both the principal and any prior interest earned. We already spoke about simple interest. Simple interest is just calculated on the principal amount only. Because under compound interest, you get the benefit of earning money on previous interest earned, your money grows quicker, as you could tell from the graph on the bottom right. Compounded interest, it's interest paid not only on the principal, which would be simple interest, but it's also calculated on interest that has been earned already. The formula for compounded interest is below. A being the final dollar amount, or the total dollar amount. And as with the simple interest calculation, P stands for principal, R is the rate of interest, T is the number of years. And then we have N, which is a new value for compounding, because we need to know the number of compounding periods per year. Interest can be compounded in many ways. Some of the more common compounding interest periods are below: annually, semi-annually or twice a year, quarterly, 4 times a year, monthly, 12 times a year. Interest can even be compounded daily, or 365 days a year. So let's look at the formula and apply it to an example. If David invests $1,800 in a saving account that pays 4.5% interest that is compounded semi-annually, what is the value of the investment in 12 years? We have our compound interest formula, where P equals principal, or $1,800, and then we multiply that 1 by 1 times the interest rate divided by 2. We divide it by 2, which is the number of times it is compounded in a year. The reason why the interest rate is divided by the number of times it's compounded is because the interest rate is an annual interest rate. So if the $1,800 was stayed into the account for the entire year, it would earn 4.5% interest. Half a year, it would only earn half of that. So because you're compounding it twice a year, how much would it have earned for the first 6 months would be half of the full year interest rate. So that's why it's divided by the number of times it's compounded in a year. And then it needs to be multiplied exponentially by the number of times it's compounded, the 2, times the length of time the investment is outstanding, which is 12 years. So in this instance, we have $1,800 times 1.0225 exponential to 24. If you do the math, it comes out to $3,070.38. So after 12 years, your $1,800 investment will be worth about $3,070.38. Here's a good example to see how compounded interest grows money quicker than simple interest. In the simple interest column, each year you earn $10 on a $100 investment at 10% interest rate. You earn $10 the first year, 100 times 10%. And because simple interest is only calculated on the original principal, each year thereafter, for 50 years, you earn $10 a year. It never changes. It's always $10 a year. So after 50 years, you'll have $600 in that account. Versus compounded interest. The first year, it also earns $10. $100 times 10% interest of $10. Both simple interest and compounded interest have $110 in the bank account at the end of the year. On the second year, though, when we apply the interest rate to the compounded interest calculation, we would use $110 as our basis. We'd multiply that by 10%, which comes to $11. So at the end of year 2, compounded interest, the value of my account under compounded interest is $121 versus $120. I have $1 extra. Over time, this difference becomes bigger and bigger. And if you look 50 years out, my $100 investment, due to the power of compounding, is now worth $11,739. Today I would like to show you how simple interest compares to compounded interest. We're going to look at a principal balance of $1,000 that is invested at a 10% rate of return for 10 years. Under simple interest calculation, the principal times the interest rate results in an interest earned for year 1 of $100. So our balance at the end of year 1 is $1,000 plus $100, or $1,100. Simple interest means that each year the interest is calculated only on the original principal. Every year it's calculated on $1,000. Any interest earned prior is excluded. So at the end of 10 years, your balance would be the value of the opening balance of $1,000 plus any interest earned. So the total should be $2,000, which represents $1,000 principal, which remained invested for 10 years, and $1,000 earned over 10 years for a total balance at the end of 10 years of $2,000. Each year, $100 is made. Now you can see with the power of compounded interest how much more money you could make. In the first year, the principal times the interest rate results in $100 earned, or the balance at the end of year 1 of $1,100. That is the same as under the simple interest calculation. The difference occurs in years 2 through 10. The next year, in year 2, the interest of 10% is applied not just to the $1,000 principal, but against any previously earned interest, which would be the $1,100 that is already sitting in the account. So in the second year, $110 was earned in interest versus only $100 under the simple interest calculation. So now if I extend this all the way down for the 10 years, you will see that each year the interest earned grows because the principal that it's being calculated on includes prior interest. So we take the ending balance of 1 year and we start it, and that's what's used for the following year. So in year 3, our ending balance was $1,331. So in year 4, that's what was used for the interest calculation. So you could see in year 4, we earned $133 versus only $100 under simple interest. And the longer the interest calculations go, the longer time that the money is invested, the greater the difference and the more money you could earn under the compounded interest formula. If you look all the way on year 10, $236 was earned in year 10 of interest because the balance that it was calculated on was based on $2,358, so we have a larger interest earned compared to only $100 earned on the simple interest. So in total, over 10 years, simple interest generates $1,000 in total interest, and the compounded interest calculation, because we get the benefit of earning interest on previous interest earned, earns us $1,594. So you can see that compounded interest is the better way to invest your money.